Feet of our most beloved Swami. Brothers and sisters, Sai Ram to all of you. Those multi-faith prayers, I'm sure, were an appropriate way to begin this day when we conclude the Mahasamadhi observance at our Flushing Sai Center. As we look at the beautiful form of our beloved Swami, it is very hard to believe it is 1 year since we lost access to this physical frame. However, 1 year later, his mission continues to grow from strength to strength. And of course, it is only because of the divine grace of our beloved Swami. But as individuals, as Sai devotees, we all have our roles to play. And we remember particularly with gratitude the leadership and guidance that was provided by the Sri Sathya Sai Central Trust during those challenging days leading up to the Mahasamadhi and after. I think it is very appropriate that as we conclude Swami's Mahasamadhi observance here today, we are joined by the media coordinator of the Central Trust, Professor A. Anantharaman. Professor Anantharaman has held many eminent positions. He has served as chief executive of corporates around the world. He has served as professor in many prestigious institutions, including Harvard. But I'm sure he will tell us the greatest blessing that was bestowed on him was the opportunity to first be a professor in Swami's Management Institute in Puttaparthi and later serve as the media coordinator. He comes here straight from Puttaparthi after participating and actually organizing in some way the Mahasamadhi program there. He is accompanied by his wife, Mrs. Chitra. I request you to join me in giving a very warm welcome.
Sai Ram. In a very significant speech in 1981, Swami spoke about the 8 flowers of worship. Out of these, he said ahimsa, non-violence, was the most important. Swami's concept of ahimsa was far beyond the concept of not causing harm. Swami's concept of ahimsa basically went beyond this and talk about not causing harm in word, thought and deed. Explained so beautifully in that slokam, Tridalam Trigunakaram, Trinecham Triyayudam, Trijanma Papasamharam, Ekabilvam Shivarpanam. That we should not, one's word, thought and deed must be harmonized and unified. And an offering must be made to God with such a flower. I would like to commence today with an offering of such a flower at the feet of Bhagavan. We just finished 3 days of anniversary festivities at Prashant Nilayam. The theme of the Aradhana Mahotsavam that was held at Prashant Nilayam was experiencing the divine from the form to the formless. Yet, during the entire period, as some very eminent people were speaking about the formless devotion that we need to develop, if you had scratched the heart of any of the attendees and asked them what they missed, their answer would very clearly have been, I'm missing the form. The reality was there was an empty chair on the stage. You can rationalize it to any extent by saying that Swami has repeatedly said that he is not the body. But emptiness is emptiness. Void is a void. For many of us, this void can never be filled. For most of you, as indeed it has been for me, He has been the sheet anchor. You had a problem, you left it to him. You had a question, you gave him a letter. You had a concern, you prayed to him. You felt distressed, you surrendered to him. And in that surrender, you found a great sense of serenity. And the problem no longer mattered. All along, Swami's presence has been like a sunbeam. It's almost as if several colors of the rainbows were fused into it, each color more resplendent than the other. It's only when one grasps that sunbeam can one experience the reality. Even then, we can only experience it, but cannot explain or understand its infinite variety. We will never understand this mystery. The only thing we can do is to immerse in it. As Swami himself has said, dive and know the depth. Eat and know the taste. Whenever I attempt to speak on Swami, I find a twofold sense of trepidation. Firstly, I feel it's presumptuous because our explanations do not add anything to his glory. Secondly, none of it can do justice to the truth because his reality is immeasurably beyond our level of comprehension. His is a buoyant reality which is beyond all verbal definition. The living divinity cannot be explained in metaphors or examples. The limited cannot comprehend the unlimited. The wayward cannot measure the stable, or the now understand the ever. I think it was Isaac Newton who once described, after enunciating the principle of gravity, we are all like little children playing with the pebbles in the seashore, while the great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before us. That was Swami. It has been a difficult 1 year for us at Prasanthi Nilayam. I think it was Sir Aurobindo who once said that avatars bring the omnipresent, omniscient, formless God into the human abyss. And human as we are, anybody missing in that abyss, we miss him too. Somebody once asked Albert Einstein whether he can explain divinity in scientific terms. Einstein said it would be difficult because it would be like explaining Beethoven's 8th Symphony in the form of an air pressure curve. It's not possible. But there is one aspect of Swami which is crystal clear, which is beyond all doubt. That he descended to facilitate our ascent. He himself has said, sadhus prayed and I came. Avatars choose the time and mode of their arrival of their advent in glory. As the clouds form droplets and fall upon the hills which they choose to foster, the formless Absolute decides to take a human form and to come down among humanity to save and to sustain. When waves lose their awareness of the sea, when man loses the sight of Brahman which God placed on his hands, the Lord appears among men to remind him of his destination. This is a story of a flock of little birds caught in a swirling snow, unaware of the entry to an open door into a barn. The compassionate man who was inside was trying to gesticulate to the birds, this is the way by which you should come in. But the birds did not understand his language. And the man prayed, God, make me too a little bird so that I could fly in with them. It is the self-same agony that makes God take a human form and come amongst us. In a classic letter he wrote to his brother, Swami said that his task is to foster all mankind. And his vow is to lead us all back to where we came from. In ringing tones he announced, you yourself see the full glory of my avatar in the coming years. He wrote about this 40 years ago. And what a glorious vision have we seen these 80 years. The Mansion of Sai is a multi-storied splendor. Each story has a story to tell us. The story of an educational system that runs in 90 countries, transforming 750,000 young men. The story of a healthcare model that provides tertiary care to all completely free of cost. The story of a supply of that elixir of life water to a land completely parched. The story of new homes to communities ravaged by floods. The story of a spiritual and service organization which operates in about 150 countries of the world with 600,000 active men in that area. And Prashantinilayam itself, with its huge structures, has become a spiritual destination for millions of people who come there and who find in its draw something to calm the spirit and calm the soul. While other universities are infected by anxiety, perplexity, irrelevance, and indiscipline, the accreditation committee finds the Sathya Sai University a classic gem to be repeated. The Chief Secretary of Orissa is struck by the devotion with which people worked in building homes. Dr. Noble is astounded by the state-of-the-art medical facility that happens in Prashantinilayam. Any visitor to Prashantinilayam is struck by its sheer size and the clockwork precision with which everything has been operating there, while Swami was there, and in the last 1 year that his physical presence has not been there. Everything has been operating with the same clockwork precision. The schoolboy who threw away the history books has really made history. Unto him were ushered poets and philosophers, princes and paupers, saints and sannyasis, politicians and police constables, and all of them. By their fruits ye shall know them, say the scriptures. All these fruits point unerringly to the avatar who once declared, I will succeed. I will not be limited. My will shall prevail. Kasturi records that Swami Abhedananda, who spent a lifetime of sadhana at the Ramana Maharshi ashram, he wrote to him and said that it would be a gross understatement if you consider Swami as designated as an avatar, engaged in an adventure, undertaken to satisfy a particular project. According to him, Swami was nothing but Brahman itself coming in human form. He, like Krishna, is the seed that expanded into the cosmos. Somebody once asked me, how do I relate to Swami's divinity, which is indefinable? I do not want to give the classic answer of Swami possessing the 16 kalas, Sthiti, Srishti, Layas, Trayambak. For me, his divinity is symbolized in his ability to shower the profoundest love on all the people so that all material questions are stilled. To me, his divinity is evident in his ability to enter the hearts of all the people and place in each one of them a seed of faith. For me, his divinity is exhibited not in the gravitas of a mighty God, but when he says, do not walk ahead of me, for I may not follow. Do not walk behind me, for I may not lead. Walk with me and be my friend. And it's not just a story of love and faith as far as Swami is concerned. It's a story of change. It's a story of transformation, of people, of society, of events. Howard Murfitt reports that in a conversation that he had with Swami a long time ago, he said that there were a lot of conflicts in the world. Howard Murfitt asked Swami, will there be a third world war? No, said Swami, there will only be several small ones. And then Howard Murfitt went on to talk about the godlessness of the government and the people of Russia at that time. When Swami interrupted him and said, without a trace of self-consciousness, maybe the governments must be changed, as if it was the simplest thing on earth to do that. 6 months later, the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic broke into pieces. It's not just governments, but also people. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa talks about the fabled oyster. It leaves its bed at the bottom of the ocean and comes up to the surface of the sea when the star Swati is its ascendant. It floats in the water with its lids all open. It catches a drop of water, goes deep into the bottom of the sea, and after many, many years, brings forth a pearl, accepts a raindrop, and brings to the world a pearl. Swami similarly can convert a lump of clay into a 22-karat gold. He could transmute and transform the most notorious criminal into a person of the highest moral caliber. Each one of us here is an evidence of what he can do to mere mortals. Much has also been talked about Swami's love. It overflowed the boundaries like the universal sun. But it also can cut through falsehoods like a blade of ice. It melts and looks at compassion at the sight of suffering. But it can also blind and confuse the man of pretense and the creature of cunning. But like a surgeon's knife, it also healed where it wounded. His love floods the vast horizon of people around him. He has often repeated that if you take a first step towards him, he will take 100 steps towards you. And when he takes those 100 steps and reaches you, what hits you is the love and compassion that radiates out of him. At the very first interview I had with him almost 40 years ago, I had prepared a series of questions to ask of him. Some spiritual, but mostly temporal. But I could not open my mouth. When I was with him, it was almost as if a dam burst within me. As if somebody pressed a dormant spiritual button within me. I was shaking my head and crying like an idiot child. How do you speak to God? It has been a trying time these last few months at Prashantanilayam for many of the close devotees and many of the general public who were touched in some way by Bhagwan. First, there was the tragedy of the Mahasamadhi itself. About this, there are many theories. I do not want to add one more. But in my 40 years of association with Swami, there are two things about which I am absolutely certain. One is his cosmic will, Vajra Sankalpa. Another is his capacity for total detachment, Vairagya. These are the two strongest qualities of Swami that one could observe. I say this with the perfect responsibility of a rational human being and one who teaches science and management to students and being a student myself. That it is inconceivable that Swami would have done anything that he did not want to do. If he wanted to walk out of that hospital, he was perfectly capable of walking out of that hospital. And if he did not, no power anywhere, no medical expertise could have changed that. Further, divine beings rarely make a sankalpa to heal their own body, except to establish a point. Questions are still being asked. Why did Swami not heal himself? Ramakrishna lived for a long time, enduring an excruciating cancer of his throat. In fact, Vivekananda had to beg Ramakrishna, please allow this disease to alleviate a little bit so that you could at least have some food. Ramana Maharshi's left arm was affected by sarcoma, a painful cancer. In fact, his sister Alamelu pleaded with him, brother, can't you cure yourself? Ramana Maharshi's answer was, Yes, I have a body which has a hand. The hand is a disease. You want me to resolve in my mind that I must cure that disease? But where is the mind to make that resolution? Christ turned water to wine at the feet of Cana. He brought dead Lazarus back to life. He had the majesty to reprimand the ocean. Yet the Son of God allowed himself to be nailed to the cross. Swami had often reiterated that his only property are his students and devotees. Therefore, you and we as his soul heirs have a definite role to perform in the days to come. You will be dealing with a world where the all-pervading, all-embracing physical reality of Swami is absent. It's a completely different world. We at the Trust at Prashant Nilayam have had to deal with issues which we never had to deal with before. It's a world where we suddenly heard words like stakeholders. In that world, in addition to devotees, there were others. One of the biggest miracles of Swami while he was here in his physical form was that he insulated us from that real world most of the time. Prior to April 24th, Swami could have countered all this with just one look. And like a mist before the morning sun, all of them would have disappeared. If you are just a spiritual organization focused only on devotional activities, perhaps all this is not necessary. But we are a service organization with a multi-camp educational institutions, multi-location facilities, etc. And therefore, we need a completely different way to organize and deal with this world. We at the Central Trust have really not comprehended this real world yet. We were practically pushed into it without any preparation, without the overbearing protection of Swami's umbrella. And even without comprehending, we have taken several decisions. Could we have taken different decisions? Perhaps we could have. Could we have acted differently on some of the occasions? Perhaps we could have. There are always choices available. Were all our choices correct? Perhaps not. But it was all a matter of judgment. But there is one thing I can categorically tell you, whatever decisions we took at Prashant Nilayam, whatever action we took subsequently, all the judgments that were made, all the courses that were pursued, all the action that were taken, had one sole objective, that these institutions founded by Swami shall not diminish. What then is the living legacy of this loving legend? Our action hereafter will be that legacy. So far, his life has been his message. Now, our life will have to be that message. What was the legacy of Rama Avatar? When we think of Rama, what do we remember? Not Ayodhya. We think of Hanuman, we think of Jatayu, even the tiny squirrel which wanted to help them to build the bridges across Lanka. They're all Rama's devotees. And the legacy is the fulfillment of Rama's desire and teachings through these devotees. What was the legacy of Krishna Avatar? Not Dwaraka or Vrindavan. His legacy was his devotees, the gopis, even the soldiers who fought in the battle, who gave up their lives to fulfill what Krishna wanted. And so it was with Buddha, with Christ, Holy Prophet Muhammad, Guru Nanak, all of them. It was the devotees who carried forth and fulfilled the missions and spread the message to all those who wanted to hear. But now, what about Sai Avatar? What we should be following to perpetuate the memory and message of Sai? For almost the entire period, Swami has been propagating the Sanatana Dharma, the ancient wisdom of India. Islam came from Muhammad, Christianity came from Jesus, Buddhism came from Buddha, and Jainism from Mahavir. But all these religions owe their existence to the personal encounters of their prophet founders. Moses saw God in a burning bush. Elijah heard the still small voice. Jesus saw the baptism of John in Jordan. Socrates, Plato, Polonius, Augustus, Dante, all of them testify to the felt reality of God. Sanatana Dharma alone has no author and no founder, and no one saw God. Divine truths and ageless wisdom was whispered to the rishis by the God themselves, and these were handed down from generation to generation through word of mouth, nothing in writing. Many came to drink at this eternal spring and imbibe this esoteric knowledge. Jesus of Nazareth was one of them. He took back large portions of this water of life to share with the God-thirsty people of Israel. Several others came. Buddha, Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, all of them to share this eternal wisdom. And then came Sai. Almost the first thing Swami said after he came, I have not come here to start a new religion, but to repair the ancient highway to God. How do we prove worthy of this legacy? And how do we act further in fostering whatever he has bequeathed to us in a world bereft of his mighty presence? In a world where we will be one of several such organizations. There's only one way. We need to eschew differences. We need to bury egos. And as Krishna advised in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharmam parityajya mamekam saranam vraja. Surrender unto me, giving all duties and obligations. There are already several efforts in this direction in what I would call the AS period, the after Sai period. Soon new sets of devotees will emerge. They may not even be members of an organization. The same way all Krishna adherents are not members of ISKCON. We would need to channelize the energies of all of them. For example, there is a new group that formed in Chembur, Bombay. They have started what they call Vriddha Seva. They collect senior citizens, plan an outing for a day, sharing divine love with Sai Bhajan, study circle, Yatra, Bharatanatyam and Abhang. But at the end of the day, all the members of this group perform Pada Puja to the seniors present in the group. When I asked the leader, why do you do this? His answer was, after Swami disappeared, physical form disappeared, we were searching for the physical form of Swami. We found that it had split into several myriad forms of these senior citizens. They found Swami in each. And that's why they said to do this kind of a seva. I started by saying that in Prashant Nilayam, when these festivities took place, there was an empty chair. But how can the chair be empty when right next to the chair was a Mahasamadhi? In fact, all Swami has done is to free us from the limitation of the human form. Free us from the restrictive identification of Brahman in a physical form. By taking Mahasamadhi, he has left us with no choice but to look for him in a place where he must be sought. That is inside our own selves and inside all creation. Draupadi once chided Krishna, Krishna, in the court of Duryodhana, when Dushasana tried to disgrace me, I prayed out to you for help. You never came. Why? Krishna asked Draupadi, where did you call me from? Where did you think I was? Draupadi said, why Krishna? I called out to you in Dwaraka, were you not there? Krishna said, that was the problem. It would have taken me some time to come all the way from Dwaraka. On the other hand, if you had prayed to the Krishna within you, within your heart, I would have come here much quickly. That's the kind of prayer which Swami wants us to do now that his physical form is not there. That explains it, said Krishna. Once when Swami came for darshan, I found Isaac Tigert sitting there with his eyes closed. I asked him, why? Why are you sitting here with your eyes closed? He said, Swami has told me, don't look at my form for the next 4 years. He replied, because, why? He replied, it's because he wants us to worship not his body, he wants us to focus on the changeless, the absolute consciousness, the absolute truth. When Krishna said, "My devotee never perishes, take refuge in me and never despair," he was not referring to the embodied form of Krishna that was born to Devaki and Vasudeva. If the Krishna of Dwapara Yuga is still a living presence for all of us even after millions of years of leaving the body, what else is Krishna but the eternal, changeless and absolute? Therefore, in the absence of the embodied Sai, the eternal Sai will surely protect us. In several faiths, the tomb or Mahasamadhi of an avatar or even a realized person is regarded by many as having an incorporeal presence. In fact, the Upanishads say, Natasya pranaha utkramanti, meaning that the pranas do not leave their body to take up another, since the individual self has merged with the totality. Shirdi Sai Baba has reportedly said, "Believe me, though I pass away, the bones in my tomb will continue to bless you and listen to your prayers. Do not be anxious, I would be away from you." Therefore, we need to have little doubt that millions will throng to Mahasamadhi at Prashantanilayam and continue to receive the grace of Sai. In fact, remarkable incidents are taking place even now all over the world which testify to the reality of the existence of Swami in some form where he still continues to come and advise people. A typical story happened a few weeks ago. P. Sushila, the noted film artist, playback singer, had organized a musical tribute to Swami in Chennai a few weeks ago. 2 days before the function, she told us the story on the stage. 2 days before the function, she was still very confused. How to organize the function, what to do. She said, "I'm not an organizer. I just didn't know what to do, how to organize, how to seat people on the stage, what should be the order of precedence, who should sing first, who should sing second." She was in a confused state till 2 days ago, till 2 days before the function. Invitations had gone out to all the people at Chennai, including people in senior government positions, film artists, VIPs, devotees, everybody. She was confused. Swami comes to her in her dream 2 days before and asks her. And Sushila chides him, saying, "Swami, you left me and went away. What do I do? How do I manage all this?" Swami told her, "No, I have not gone anywhere. I'm still here. What's your problem?" She says, "Look, I've got to organize that. I just don't know how to organize this function." Swami says, "Come here, sit down, bring a piece of paper. I'll tell you what to do." And then he gives her detailed instruction. First he tells her, have 5 chairs on the stage. She says, 5 chairs? There are only 4 guests. Myself, Anjali Devi, and 2 people from the trust whom I have called. He said, "No, get the 5. I'll get the 5th man from Prashantanilayam." It just happened that the 5th man happened to be myself. I had no intention of going to Prashantanilayam. To the function at Chennai. That morning, as I was coming out for breakfast, I found a couple of my friends sitting in a car and going away. I said, "Where are you going?" "We are going to Chennai to attend this function." I said, "Can I hop in?" They said, "Yes." So they came back, took my luggage, sat in the car and went. And because I was representing the Central Trust, P. Sushila was good enough to invite me to come and sit on the stage. So the 5th chair was occupied. And then Swami tells her, "Don't garland people here. Give them bouquets. That's more fashionable. That's what you must do." And then Swami tells P. Sushila again in the dream. P. Sushila asks him, "Swami, I don't know how to conduct functions. What do I do?" "Ask Saukar Janaki to come and conduct the function." P. Sushila tells Swami, "Swami, I have not told Saukar Janaki. It's only 2 days. If I go and tell her today, she will get very annoyed." He said, "Don't worry, I will go and tell her." And the same night, Swami goes to Saukar Janaki in her dream and tells her, "You better go and come here." And then Swami goes on further and says, this was classic Swami. He looks at one name, "Don't put that fellow in the beginning. He's always late. Push him to the end." Now, this is vintage Swami. Right? Now, this is one example of how Swami's presence continues to exist and tell all the people whatever is happening everywhere. But for all this to happen to all of us, we need focused attention and devotion. Swami once told the story of Paganini. Niccolo Paganini was a famous Italian violinist. He's a violin virtuosi, well known in the Western world. He had a favorite violin. Once Paganini was invited to the World Conference of Music, which was to be held in the Royal Opera House of Paris, which was at the time considered to be the center of Western culture and music. In the audience were the crowned heads of Europe, where the greatest musical critics were also seated. Paganini was to play a violin in that gathering. So he took his instrument and stepped onto the stage. He started to tune his violin at the beginning of the middle of the stage in preparation for his play, when suddenly one string broke. There was a complete silence in the audience. Undeterred, Paganini continued to tune his violin. Your violin has 4 strings. Paganini continued to tune with 3 strings. Then the second string also broke. There was a hushed murmur among the members. Some of the audience even started tittering. But he quietly went on tuning the instrument. And then the impossible happened. The third string broke. Paganini took his instrument, walked up to the center of the stage, held the violin aloft and said, Paganini and 1 string, and then played one of the most beautiful pieces of music that was ever played. The 1 string in our Paganini violin is devotion and surrender to Swami. Let all other strings break. Our support system, people, material, resources. But as long as we keep that single string of devotion to Swami, surrender to Swami, service to Swami, and commitment to Swami, our Paganini violin will continue to send forth the sweetest strains of felicity that ever thrilled the senses. Yet another lesson I've learned during all this period is to develop a sense of surrender to Swami. A devotee once told Swami, during moments of extreme anguish, I listen to you for guidance, but I don't get your guidance. Swami said, when you are fully attuned to me, your voice is my voice. Sai Krishna explains this beautifully when he says, Mame Vaishyasi Yuktvaitam Atmanam Matparayana. Unifying thus yourself, you will surely come to me. What he asks us to seek from him is not praise the worldly glory, but praise the lasting glory of joy. The English word surrender does not explain the grandeur of the Sanskrit word saranagati. Saranagati relieves you from the rewards and remorse of doership. As long as Arjuna believed that he was a doer and enjoyer of the rewards, he felt miserable. But when the Lord demonstrated to him that the cousins whom he was reluctant to kill had already been killed, and that he was only doing the work of the God, work which the God had instructed him to do, he felt immensely pleased to perform that act and had a great sense of composure and peace that depended on him. We have no ownership rights to talk of surrender. Everything is his already. The flower that we offer at his feet is plucked from his garden. The service that we offer to him is a gift to us. Our surrender is nothing but acceptance of his divine will. It's renunciation of the illusion of separation that he is different. But such surrender should not only be complete, but also be without bargain. There's a story of 2 sailors who were shipwrecked on an island. While one fellow was looking around to see what was happening, the second fellow went on praying and was saying, God, if only you will save me, I will give this up. I will give eating my favorite food. I will give up drinking. While he was saying all this, the second sailor immediately said, come on, don't be hasty. I see a ship at the distance. Hold on, don't give up more things. You don't have to. Now, this is not surrender. Again, we have typical examples. You drive on New Jersey Turnpike, 80 miles per hour when you ought to be at 55 miles. Right behind you, a traffic cop comes, beams. You stop the car, he stops behind you. This is the time you look at the picture of Swami in front of you. Swami, here is a test for you. Test for Swami. If only you make this cop go away without giving me a ticket, I will do anything for you. Not otherwise. Now, this is not surrender either. Swami himself tells a story of what he means by this Atma Nivedan. When Rama and Lakshmana were combing the forest in search for Sita, they became very thirsty. They came upon a pond and while placing their bows, dropped their arrows on the ground. After slaking their thirst, they went back, picked up the bow, and they picked the arrow from the ground. When Rama looked at his arrow, at the end of the tip of the arrow, there was a piece of blood there. So Lakshmana looked around to see where the blood came from. Apparently this blood came from a little frog who was sitting there. When Rama dropped the arrow pierced into him and blood oozed out of the frog. Rama asked the frog, "Why didn't you cry out to you when you were hit?" Asked the poor frog, "Why didn't you cry out to me when you were hit?" And the frog replied, "When I'm in trouble, Rama, I cry out to you for help. But when Rama himself inflicts pain on me, whom can I cry out to? I merely accept it as his grace." This is the kind of Atma Nivedan and surrender that Swami expects us to develop. When you surrender to Swami, you do not surrender your will to him, but you blend your will with him. His love and light will overshadow you and flow right through you. I have several personal examples which have again and again demonstrated the power of such surrender. During a trip from Madras to Bangalore, the car which I was driving crashed into the wayside bushes due to a broken tire rod end. The vehicle was a total disaster, but nothing, I didn't have a scratch. At another time, I had lost all my travel documents at Singapore, but they mysteriously reappeared just before checking in. Sometimes we do not realize the full sweep of Swami's movement, the extent to which Swami has touched lives all over the world. A few years ago, I had an opportunity to present Swami's Ananthapur water project at the 3rd Water Forum at Osaka. One morning, in between the sessions, I was having refreshments at the canteen. There was an African gentleman at a nearby table. After some time, the gentleman kept looking at me for a while. After some time, the gentleman came to me and said, "Are you a devotee of Sathya Sai Baba?" Startled, I said, "Yes, but how do you know?" "I recognized you by your green ring." He introduced himself. He said, "I am the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso." He extended his hand. He had a green ring too. In this whole conference of kings, presidents, and leading men, there were 8 of us who had green ring there. This was the extent of Swami's contact which had developed all over the world. On another occasion, I was speaking to a youth in a retreat in South America. This was at the time of Kosovo crisis. One of the young men got up and asked a question. If, as you say, Sai Baba is elevating human consciousness, why are innocent children being murdered in Kosovo? Why is such dictatorial evil being allowed to happen here? What is Sai Baba doing about it? Back came the answer from another young adult who said, when Hitler's Nazi hordes massacred the Jews in Europe, it required a world kept quiet. It required a world war where thousands died to quieten Adolf Hitler. But when the children of Kosovo are being slaughtered, the world roared back. That is how Sai Baba is elevating human consciousness. 2 years after he presented his Ananthapur water project at Osaka, Swami asked me to go to Mexico and present the water project to him. This was the 4th World Water Forum at Mexico. In this water forum, the Navajo Indians from Arizona, in a group walked all the way from Arizona to Mexico. And their habit was in the night, wherever they stopped, they would dig the ground, wherever water was found, collect the water in a cistern and bring it. And they wanted to present a cistern of water collected from several spots on the earth, from Arizona to Mexico, to a leader at the Water Forum, basically to establish the fact that water is a basic right. And there should be no commercialization of this water. That's what they wanted to do. So when I was presenting this, in the evening they invited us to come and address the local Mexican Sai Center. And there were also a couple of colleagues of mine, Mr. Ramakrishna of Larsen and Toubro, Mr. Kalyandre, who was at the time in UN Habitat. All the three of us were invited to go in the evening to attend the Sai Center in Mexico. So we all went there. After we went there, there was a lady who was part of the group, who was one of the devotees who was present to this evening session. She excitedly said, "I want to say something." So we allowed her to speak. She spoke in Spanish. Whatever she said was translated to us. She said, "This morning as I was sitting at home, somebody knocked at my door. I opened the door. I found two Navajo Indians who were on the way to present their water cistern at the Mexico Water Project. One of them had a bottle in his hand. He gave the bottle of water to me and gave it to me and said, 'Go and give this to your God in India.'" And she said, "How did he know that she was a Sai devotee? How did she know I consider Swami as my God? How did he know that God is in India? How did he know who I was? Why did he knock at the door? And more than that, I was puzzled, how do I reach it to India?" 2 hours later, this lady gets a call from her zonal chairman of the center and saying 4 people have come from India, they are going to give a talk today, please come. So she comes in the evening, brings the bottle of water and says, I had no idea in the morning that somebody is going to give me a water to be given to Swami. And secondly, I had no idea that there was going to be a function today. So she gave this water which in a bottle, which I took it and gave it to Swami. Now how did all this happen? Who knew that Swami was God? That Mexican Navajo Indians, they come all the way knocking at the door. These are some of the several things that have been happening and that will continue to happen. And I met Sai devotees in the jungles of Africa. I've seen them in the mountains of Andalusia. I've seen them in the skiing slopes of Selfandon. And once I was startled to hear the strains of Sai Bhajan hummed by a lonely trekker in the Grand Canyon. It's a majestic sweep covering Loka Samasta, perhaps Samasta Loka itself. It is said that the gravitational pull of a single electron somewhere in the universe, randomly shifting position, can affect the billiard game on earth. It's therefore reassuring to find that the one who had to maintain balance and order in the universe has been our contemporary. But Swami's message, time and again, has been to tell us in all manner of ways that our real identity is the Atma, that we are all part and parcel of God, that we are all images of God, that we are as eternal as God Himself, and that we have mistaken our temporary projection of ourselves into this world as real identity. Most of them live through life not being aware of this identity. But do we understand that? I did not, till I heard a near-death experience of one man. It's a true story, and the story was repeated to me by a doctor in Ottawa who is a devotee of Swami. He had a patient who was repairing a TV antenna. While he was doing it, he accidentally touched a live wire carrying 12,000 volts of electricity. What happens if you touch an electric wire of 12,000 volts? You just die of ventricular fibrillation. And when it happened, he was repairing this on a pole 20 feet high. Therefore, his dead body just dropped to the ground from there. This is a true story. Dead body just dropped from the ground. But it so happened that it hit the ground at the precise angle and position to start another defibrillation. And he came back to life. It was almost as if God called him and changed his mind. And as he was being transported back to the hospital in the few seconds, people around him asked the question, what happened in that gap, a few seconds where you're supposed to have died? He said, what was in that gap? He said, unbounded joy and bliss. Were you aware? Yes, I was aware. What were you aware? He said, I was aware that I was aware. What do you mean you were aware that you were aware? What exactly was your feeling? He said, it was pure wakefulness. I was not this or that. I just was. I had the experience of my own immortality. I had the experience of eternity. I had an experience of bliss, of pure joy. I was so grounded that everything else became a concept. And once for all, I got rid of that experience people call fear. It's a true story. I authenticated by meeting this man later. By this time, the man had explored what happened in that gap and even read a lot. He quoted Exodus, chapter 3, verse 14. And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. Thus shalt thou say to the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. In fact, Swami himself has said that you as body, mind and soul are a dream. What you really are is pure existence, knowledge and bliss. Within you is a mighty ocean of nectar divine. Seek it within you. Feel it within you. It's here. The self is not the body and mind and intellect. All these are manifestations. Above all, there is you. It's a wonderful description of the state of our being. The reality of our Atma is hard to realize, but that reality is within us all the time. That our natural state is unbounded joy, bliss, peace and happiness. Our usual behavior is not our natural state. Our usual behavior of desire, greed, jealousy, etc. is not our natural state. And we are not even our own body. Swami could have cured himself with the flick of a second. Instead, all these years he ambled along painfully to see, to feel and to understand that he was not the body. 2000 years ago, at another time and another place, in the distant Jerusalem, another cosmic being bled in order to prove exactly the same kind of a point. In fact, the remarkable similarity of language between the father and son was brought forth dramatically by Ron Ling a few years ago. He wrote a book. During a conversation, Ron Ling, a Britisher, asked Swami, Swami, are you the one who sent Jesus of Nazareth into incarnation? Swami simply said, yes. Ron was flabbergasted. Great truth coming so simply from the mouth of this simple-looking man in yellow robes. But he persisted. Then he asked the question which was at the bottom of his heart, for which he wanted an answer for a long time. He asked Swami slowly, emphasizing each word so that he doesn't lose a word, so that Swami gets every word. And then he asked him, are you what we Westerners call by the word cosmic Christ? Swami looked at him straight in the eyes and said simply, quietly, without a trace of self-consciousness, yes. That was a mind-boggling declaration. What Swami is telling us is that he as the universal consciousness is our contemporary. We are not transients with limited body. We are not mere accidents of birth. And we are not alone in the meaningless abyss of endless physical laws. Questions have also been raised often, now that Swami is not here, what will happen to the golden age? There was an Atirudra Mahayagnam at Chennai, where lakhs and lakhs of people attended each day. Police and Sevadal volunteers who were completely newly recruited managed this big crowd. Very soon police gave up. Hot Madras, lakhs of people, open air, all of them had to be managed. Police gave up the job. And our Sevadal volunteers were newly recruited, did the complete job. At the end of the 3-day session, the Commissioner of Police spoke. He said, I've been watching these young men day by day, guarding, controlling, maintaining with a smile on their face. Police gave up. Where did they get this amazing ability to manage this crowd? While young men elsewhere are spending their time in malls and music halls, here are a group of young men performing service. Today, Sai Spiritual Organization operates in 186 countries with 200,000 volunteers and 600,000 concerned citizens, helping in all kinds of community activities. From washing a leper's wound to cleaning a slum, all done without any recompense and all done with complete love. If this is not a golden age, what is a golden age? The golden age does not have to come, it's already here. Shirdi Sai awakened the human consciousness. Sathya Sai elevated that human consciousness. Prema Sai will fill the world with that consciousness. Sir Arthur Eddington, the famous physicist, once said that this world is a wave of thought. Each law of nature, each action and reaction is a witness to the vital vibration of his divinity in the gross, subtle and causal cosmos. Swami once said, I shall one day move in the outer space, and from those lofty heights traversing inch by inch, I will come to my devotees, first as fragrance, and then as thought, and then as light. Every happening of Sai, surrender to him completely. Every happening then will be a combination of the thought, of that light, and of that fragrance. I first came to the feet of Sai 40 years ago. At the time, to quote the poet, what was I? An infant crying in the night, an infant crying for the light, and with no language but a cry. But in the process of light, eyes opened, we saw the world. Suddenly the purpose and goal of life became very clear. Mankind has gone through an evolutionary journey from mineral to the vegetable and from the vegetable to the animal, and thence to the human level. Eons passed and the slow pilgrimage took place, but the journey never stopped. And suddenly we have this triple Sai avatar to help us navigate that path, to remind us that we are not the body, to tell us that we have mistaken our temporary projection into the world of matter, namely our bodies and minds, as ourselves, that most of us live through lives being quite unaware of this true identity, that we are all part of God, images of God, sons of God, and as eternal as God himself. That we must use our life as a means to reach that goal and traverse the path from ignorance to knowledge, from darkness to light, and from transient to the eternal. Sai Ram.
Anantharaman, on all our behalf. I also wish to express our collective gratitude to you, Professor, for really being a voice for all Sai devotees. And as you rightly said, to ensure the divine name and divine institutions set up by Swami aren't diminished in any way. So thank you very much.
Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Sathya Sai जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की, साई माता की।